Acumatica has a very deep and rich approach to user security and module security. So for this sake, I do have just a handful of modules open at my fingertip. Notice that down here, I can get into more items and see that Acumatica has a very deep and very rich stack of modules and options available for us. Your users will only see what they have access to. So it'll be somewhat out of sight, out of mind, and really ease their navigation and cut down on some clutter. As well, Acumatica is known for its very robust multi-company, multi-branch concepts as it's being implemented. In this case, I will be demoing in an instance that has 3 companies, several branches under 2 of the companies. So I have revision 2 products, looking at retail and wholesale. Predominantly, we'll stay in this tenant, in this company and branch for this time frame. We will have access to our business date up here, and I can accommodate a business date change if I'm working through month-end close, other concepts. And then lastly, up here, coming across this top ribbon, I can gain direct access into my particular user profile. This is where I can update my phone number, possibly change my my password, things of that nature, setting my default branch, my default warehouse. And we'll come back to this in a little bit, but this customer view that I have here as my direct homepage, the users can work within their own homepage default. What that means is every time I click the logo or every time I richly first log in, then I'm landing here on this particular dashboard. I do have access to all sorts of other dashboards and other functions within Acumatica, but in this instance, this is how we'll navigate for this sake. Up here at the top, if I was to type in the beginning of the word receipt as just a quick example, then we'll see here that I can do some searches within Acumatica. So I can see access to menu items for expense receipts, for inventory receipts, for purchase order receipts. You'll see that in Acumatica, you'll have many different options. As well, if I go under transactions and profiles, I will see that I actually do have an expense receipt under my name. So it would take me to the actual Acumatica document if I was to drill down through it and follow through for that particular receipt. If I was just curious how different receipts were being monitored and maintained and how best to handle these, then I can actually track into help topics and see inventory costing, landed costing, and I might want to go farther and say expense receipts specifically here, but you notice that I can go next page, and it'll take me through all the concepts relating to that. And lastly, then we would have any file attachments within the entire organization that does have the word receipt or whatever I am typing up here in the top as part of the actual title. So you have a lot of interesting direct access through your global search throughout Acumatica. This right here also is kind of a breadcrumb, kind of a where have I been lately last records. Notice here that I've logged in. I've been into some shipments, some opportunities, some sales quotes. I've been throughout Acumatica in many different modules. If I'm looking to get back to one of the last invoices I was in or one of the last sales orders perhaps that I was working on, this is one of the greatest ways to navigate through that. If this is something that I'm wanting to monitor here, maybe this shipment, I'm concerned about it. I'm not sure if it got picked up properly or where it's what's happening with it. I can easily mark it as my favorite. And then every time I come back into this navigation bar here, that new favorite is going to be tracked over here for the life cycle of when I leave it there. I can easily take it off once I know it's settled, the customer's satisfied, the shipment is no longer needed, then I'm great to move forward. Also in Acumatica, I can edit these menus, so I can change the names of the menus, I can create my own menus, or create even how things are sliced in and navigated, the sort order, etc. So we'll take that up for a deeper dive during implementations and trainings, of course, but know that users can even modify gracefully off the front end of Acumatica how the tools are being put together. Let's look then also at a concept known as favorites within Acumatica. Favorites are done when I'm taking options from a particular workspace, such as the general ledger finance, accounts payable, or accounts receivable. When I'm in a particular workspace area, you'll see that there's a very standard layout here that where I have tiles to get new records, new customers, new invoices, new payments, etc. Or I can get into customer lists, invoice lists, other key reporting such as the aging, or key reporting over here such as sales profitability. I've tapped in on the gold star on each one of these records, and that has added it simply to now my favorites profile. Stays within the receivable headers, so you can easily keep these organized and sorted and on the ready here. At any point, I can simply take off an a star and take it out of my favorites menu. So pretty easy to navigate through and work through these topics here. Next couple things to note is that if I was to stop in a couple of the other workspaces, such as the payable workspace, very much laid out the same as within all things in Acumatica. My transactional records, my ongoing records, my profiles such as vendors and credit terms. I have the processing of documents and batch records if we need to, and then some of my reporting and other inquiries as vendor details, vendor summaries, etc. The other modules, such as receivables, will lay out quite similar. So taking on and onboarding Acumatica within your environment is really quite an easy task. Let's go ahead and keep moving then, and let's look at a couple of options for some additional searches and additional filters. Let's say I was in receivables, but I was looking for a particular listing of receivable records, some invoices, some overdue charges you'll see here that are being posted. And this record is known as a generic inquiry that can be truly edited and monitored. We'll talk about that a little bit later in our presentation. But let's talk about filtering and options here. So up here in my search, unlike the global search, this search here is going to look within this particular record. I could be looking for a customer name. Maybe I'm looking for something here where the customer is Greater Atlanta Inc. or something of that nature. Or maybe I want to look at something coming out of the USA bartending school. Notice we have access to all their details. I could look up invoice numbers. I could look up purchase order numbers from the customer, many different things in this particular example within this search. As well, searches can be done within the filtered search within the GI, where I could look for something that equals, contains, or maybe does not equal if I'm trying to throw records away off of this particular view or off of this particular screen. All right. So we've covered our search options and looked at how we can global search and get access to documents and help files and attachments. Let's go ahead and start into our workflow, and we'll uncover some other key nuances to Acumatica along the way as we step into our workflow. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with this concept where I've gotten in a new lead coming into Acumatica. Acumatica does have several ways that leads can be fed into Acumatica through integrations, through HubSpot integrations, website integrations, data imports through our import scenario tool and other things. But in this case, I'm just literally going to start from scratch. Maybe they just called my marketing department, called the front office, called wherever we needed to get to, or even picked up the phone and called one of our sales associates. Let's say that this individual is looking for headsets. So I'm just going to type in a quick note on what this is truly about. And we're going to say that this is the purchasing agent. All right, so this would really be their first name, their last name, and purchasing agent down here. And the account name is maybe Decatur Inc. Let's call it Cater Acme. So we've got the account name associated here. We've got a job title, phone number, some basics. I don't need to fill in all of this information at this level, but I can fill in what I do know at this time. So maybe I do know that they're coming out of the Decatur, Georgia area, and I know the downtown zip code is that. I'll make an assumption at that point. I'm going to go ahead and save it. At this point, we're going to pop this as open. Potential interest. I have some options there. And let's just say that marketing has qualified this. It is a good lead, and I'm going to accept this by the sales department. So just moving that through. Since I'm logged into Acumatica, I'm taking ownership of this actual lead record. Notice in Acumatica that I have the capability to add activities where I can add notes, chat, phone calls. I could create emails and send emails out and correspond with Mr. Paul Purchaser that's coming out of this organization as well. All right, at this point, I'm gonna kind of leave this intact. Let's say I do note a phone call. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a super quick activity record. And we'll just say called Paul. And I could have notes about call. Save that. It's going to add these records here. Again, these could be emails, these could be notes, these could be additional attachments as I'm working through this record. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is this is sales accepted. I'm going to go ahead and flag this opportunity as, or flag this record as open if needed. I can go backwards. I can disqualify it. But at this point, really what I'm looking to do is convert this to an actual opportunity. Let's say we did make a phone call. Things are going smashingly well. Paul says, yes, let's get a quote together. Let's talk about headsets on today. In your Acumatica footprint, this could be a auto numbering, or it could be manual, such it is in this case, so that I have set here. So we're just giving it some form of a name, and we'll call that Decatur ACM for creating an account. So let's go ahead and create this opportunity, and I'm going to go ahead and review it and explain this in a little more detail as it moves to the next level. Now I have a live opportunity within the system. It is noted that it auto created the business account for me, which is the base or the foundational layer for a customer record. And it's created Paul Purchaser as my contact record and done all of that homework specifically. I can still edit these records. So if I do get Paul's address, or I get a different email, or I get a cell phone for him, perhaps easy to update this. Notice I have the same activity pane here. So now as I begin to work the opportunity, I can easily carry through and keep rolling and track my phone calls, my notes, my emails, etc. I'm gonna go ahead and open this. I'm gonna call it qualified. And now we're gonna sit here in this, this particular level. The next step in this process is to drop in here into my details page, and I'm looking at a grid very similar to what might represent even a sales order grid or a quote grid or some of the other grids within the Acumatica footprint. As I move through my process, note the similarities and note kind of the ease of use between the navigation windows. So let's say that he's asking about some Plantronics headset. So I could easily type plan. Acumatica is now searching for the name, possibly the ID. If he gave me the very specific ID or SKU number for this particular item, I usually could type that and search by that as well. I'm going to go ahead and grab it. It's going to add that item. And I'm going to go ahead and say that he's asking me now for 12 of these headsets. Notice that if I was sitting at 0 headsets, or if I roll to 12 headsets, the price has dropped. The price has gone from 139 to 132. So I have a price break within Acumatica at a quantity of 12. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this as 12 at this point. Here's my pricing that is associated. And I don't have any additional quotes just ready yet, but I've saved my record. Well, let's go ahead and create a quote for this. I am going to create a sales quote. I'm going to go ahead and review that. And look at that. Again, similar grid, moving the items directly across, moving the description that led across from the actual lead into my opportunity. So I'm going to generate a quote as of this date. Let's go ahead and say that it's going to be good for a month and a couple of days. So we're going to go ahead and add an expiration date on this particular quote. I don't need to do anything with pricing. I don't need to add any orders just yet, but I'm going to go ahead and drop that in there. In Acumatica, we do have extensive approval layers within the different modules and workspaces. So whatever approval layer, whatever workflows that fit in your business, maybe quotes over a certain dollar amount or quotes to a specific product line or a specific product class or type, need to go through approval layers in this example. I'm going to go ahead and just request the approval. I do have approval rights for these particular items, so I am approved and I'm ready to go. I could print the quote, which stands me up in a very specific format. This form can be edited within the Acumatica. We'll talk about this at the end of our session, but this is a form editor that can easily be monitored and updated and changed within your actual install. Now we've printed the quote and we're ready to go. I could come back and I could easily email that quote out to Paul. I could print it. I could just talk to him. I could screen share with him, whatever I need to do within the business process to sell this deal. Let's say I make a couple more phone calls with Paul. I would add that as an additional activity and keep that going. He calls me back and he says, well, that's decent. That's actually a really decent price. I'm okay with that. Let's go with maybe 24 instead of 12. Let's see if we can outfit the rest of the office. What I'm going to do is simply copy the quote, drop me back into the same process. I'll give it an expiration date, if I so choose, about roughly the same date, and I'll update my quantity to 24. Notice that my price is now dropping extensively. So I do, again, have a price break at 24 for this particular item. I think Paul will be quite happy about that. I'm going to go ahead and request approval for that. I could print it just the same. I could still email it out and handle what I needed to get this quote out the door. If I jump back now into my opportunity and go to my quotes tab, notice I have two quotes here available. One for the 1584 and one for the 3024. So you'll see that one is primary. The primary quote is giving me my totals. The primary quote is actually then updating the details here on this main tab. At any point, I could set the other one as primary. Let's say Paul calls me back. Dean, this looks fantastic. Let's go ahead and win this opportunity over. So I'm down in the negotiation phase of this. We've talked through quoting. My opportunity is updated so that my uplines, my sales managers, etc., will know what we're doing. So we don't need to create any quotes at this point. I'm going to go ahead and mark this as close one. We won this maybe by price because I got a price discount from him. And then what I can do is jump back into the sales order quote that we did win over. And notice I have a ready action button here to convert to an order. Before I convert to an order, maybe there was just some updated notes. Paul liked the pricing at 24. But then let's also add something down here, and let's say package in sets of 6 for office distribution. Add that, save that, let's go ahead and convert that to a sales order. Notice that it wouldn't let me create that to a sales order because I don't have a customer set. Paul is considered a prospect. He's a brand new record. So typically finance would come in, review it, validate the address, or maybe there's another workflow within your particular business. But let's go ahead and mark this as extended. And we're going to leave this open long enough to get this through. And we're going to go quote convert. There we go. Now you'll see that I've moved over into my sales order workspace. So I'm no longer in the marketing lead area. I jumped into the opportunity area and I simply jumped up now into the sales order area. All I was really doing is working within document to document, which made this quite nice. Let's say my customer gives me a PO number. I'm going to go ahead and add that. I automatically have my organization, my contact, my phone numbers. If I drop down in and there was actual shipping details that I wanted to cover and address updates that I wanted to cover, if he's going to go ahead and give me the physical address that this is going to ship to. So we'll just put Main Street in here for the sake of an address. Notice as well, I could add more items to this if there was special packaging, if he wanted to add something else, maybe some cables, cords, some additional things, that's totally fine. But notice down here at the bottom, I'm constantly in reference to the Acumatica stocking levels within the warehouse that this is being portrayed out of. So I'm in my branch product retail and I'm out of my retail warehouse. And I know that I do have 196 of these available today, and they're available to ship right away. So I can get these ready to roll. As well, within my sales order, I could create a payment or a prepayment. So if the customer was paying by credit cards and I have credit card processors plugged in, I could easily capture and plant a credit card. Or if they was taking this as a counter sale at my warehouse, I easily could capture a payment, load a check, or whatever the case is that is absolutely needed. All right, at this point, I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to go ahead and create this shipment and move this back through its processing life cycle. If he needed an actual copy of the records, then we can actually print this sales order. If he needed me to email him a copy of the sales order confirmation, so it would be adding any additional freight and tax and things that would have been coming through there specifically. But notice that my note came all the way from the quote into my sales order. And I have a note down here about the choice that Paul made within this particular record. So what you'll see is if I close out of this record, that the note came through here. If I want to scrap that and leave that or change it or update it, easily done. And then down here as well, your line notes can be seen on all documentations. Let's go ahead and create the shipment for today. And let's say I'm going to ship this out tomorrow, just for the sake of the documentation. My line item comes across, my notes come across. Notice that the header note didn't, because it doesn't pertain to these particular records, but the line notes will come through. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and put this all in a box, and I'll give it some weight. I'm going to go ahead and save that. I could also print any pick list or print any shipping confirmations directly from here. Again, the warehouse may need this. If I do have warehouse automation where barcoding is involved, notice that the warehouse is even still aware of that note and how easily it's transferred between all of the documentation. Let's go ahead and flag this as confirmed shipment. In this case, I now then have my shipment prepared and the boxing can be dealt with, and I can move it up through the life cycle, and I can now go on and prepare the invoice. Note that in Acumatica, many of these steps, whether it's prepare the shipment, prepare the invoice, prepare all these other functions, can be set through an automation tool and can be scheduled to work in a queue or in a batch, so that your users don't really have to document or release these records. But here, just for the sake of the visibility in the lifecycle demo, I do have an AR invoice being prepared off of that particular sales order. I do constantly know the sales order as the reference in this example, including the shipment and how it went out the door. I have full access to the inventory ID and all of the other details as needed. Let's look inside the inventory master. We didn't stop by there while we were putting the sales order together, but you can see some default pricing. You see other things such as attributes and different functions, sales categories, different images. This really helps sales folks and people within the organization to see, am I really selling Paul the unit, the headset unit that he's asking about? Acumatica does also have a fully functional and direct connection into a BigCommerce or Shopify website. And that'll be for another deep dive demo moment. But know that many of these details and information about the particular SKUs can be sent across, including things such as detailed SKU makeup, more about this item, how it functions, how it works, because maybe customers are asking us about that. Let's go ahead and release our AR invoice. And then we're all set and ready to go. And we've seen the life cycle quite gracefully through a lead, tracked into an opportunity, generated multiple quotes, converted one of the quotes into an actual sales order, on into a shipment, and sent it out into the invoicing stage after the shipment is confirmed. My records now are reduced, so I only now have 172 on hand. We'll see that my order is completed. If I stop by my shipments tab here on my actual sales order, I'll see that I do have a shipment. It is completed. It was invoiced. The invoice and the depletion from inventory was actually generated. If I was to stop by a customer details screen and we were to look up Decatur Acme Inc. that we just generated on the fly, we'll see that they do have this one open invoice and ready to go, and I can drill backwards and drill through those records. All right. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and jump back to my home page briefly, and we're going to take a look at a mobile application and see a quick footprint of a mobile working within Acumatica and how it can function in real time. What I've done is turned on a screen mirroring tool to mirror directly onto my cell phone. As I'm in my cell phone, you'll notice that I can scroll up and down within the cell phone. You'll see recently visited records. So you'll see that even my user, as I'm logged in, it knows that I just created this sales order. It knows that I looked up sales quotes and did other things. So even my mobile app is going to remember exactly where I'm at. So if I left the office or have other needs, I can easily accommodate that and not have to go too far to work through searching for a particular record if I needed to approve something or see something, or if I was working with a particular individual. Let's do kind of a quick approach just for the sake of the demo on today. And let's go ahead and tap in, and we're going to do a new receipt. I do already have a receipt in play, but I'm going to hit the plus sign and I'm going to say create new receipt. In this new receipt, I can put in a true description. So I'm just going to say airport parking, only because that's the receipt that's sitting right in front of me and easy to grab. And then I'm going to use my lookup tool, and I'm going to grab the appropriate expense category so that I don't have to worry about my typing skills, which isn't always the greatest. I'm going to go ahead and give it a dollar amount. All right. And then now I have the shell of an airport parking ready to go. Once I grab that particular receipt number, notice the icon up at the top here. If I was to use my mouse cursor showing the screen share, I'm going to go ahead and capture this receipt and accept that. And that's now attached to that particular expense report. All right. I'm going to close out of this and see that I have that record there. Let's go ahead and jump back into Acumatica, and we'll kind of share this joint desktop screen here. And let's look inside expense receipts. And you'll see here that I have a brand new direct receipt tapped in here for the $20. If I look in at the actual image, then you'll see the capture of the image. So finance team, my managers, anybody that's approving my expense reports and working that through can see those here. In Acumatica, as a direct approach, I can easily capture the expense receipts on the fly and just track them and drop them in as claim or as expense receipts within a list within Acumatica. Then when it's time to do my expense reports within Acumatica, I could easily flag that as a claim, process that through, submit it, and it's ready to go within the Acumatica footprint. So I could capture my receipts real time when I was coming out of the airport parking, when I was at a restaurant, whatever the case is. Let's go ahead and step back out of here for a moment and look at the expense claims, and you will now see the expense claim that has been submitted for the $20. And I could click into it and see the details, see any notes, see any things as needed. I'm going to go ahead and back out to my homepage, but notice that I have CRM capabilities, so I could load leads in directly from here. The lead that I started with could have come from the mobile app, sales orders, purchase orders, and even access to dashboards that are being exposed into the mobile application. So quite a handy use within the Acumatica footprint to expose in a very pleasant format, easy to use way within the mobile application. All right, moving along, let's go ahead and talk some more about some reporting. What we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to look at a little bit deeper dive, spend a couple minutes on generic inquiries. I talked briefly in our searching capability that you can search within a particular generic inquiry, but let's talk more about what this inquiry is. This inquiry is really access to data, access to tables and table joins within the Acumatica footprint that has been built for the purpose of consuming data right on the front end of Acumatica. Notice that I have pre-built tabs up here at the top. I'm looking at all opportunity records in this example, or maybe only my opportunity records. These filters are really handy. It knows who's logged in. They don't have to drill down or sort down into their particular name or their particular information. As well, I have column choosers over here on the left. If I want to see city names or phone numbers or other direct information attached to these opportunities, I simply would have to take something such as the account name, slide it over, possibly move it up into this record here. All right, so lots of easy ways to get the information here and get it readily available within your generic inquiry. As well, I can simply pull out those particular records. If I want to filter by statuses, then I can do some drill downs and select only certain statuses. I can do additional filters. I can add to this particular filter as needed. I could also rearrange the columns. Maybe I want to know the class of the opportunities a little bit over here to the left, and near the account name, I would also like to know who the actual user is. So I can shrink down some of my columns, add some of my columns, gain some more information. As well, notice over here on the left that I have some side panels for this particular opportunity GI. Side panels can be built in that can have dashboards available to us. They can have call outs to other screens or other records. What this will do is take me, if I'm highlighted in one particular record, inside the actual opportunity itself, where I can split pane and kind of work in tandem. If I'm a salesperson updating multiple opportunities at one time, this is a pretty handy way to work through the record. Maybe I want to see more information about the contact so that I could talk to them and call them or possibly email them on some specific records. I could look at the additional quotes. Here you're seeing quotes in process, quotes that need to be approved, and there's two particular quotes here on this particular record. How many sales orders associated to this particular opportunity as well as this particular customer. So here you'll see I have one sales order, one opportunity. Things are working up quite nicely. And was it actually invoiced out in the end? Here's their invoice balances, their invoice totals, and things associated with the particular account. Great access to great information. Many other GIs are very similar. Acumatica also allows me to take this information and edit this generic inquiry with appropriate access rights. So I could add more data tables if I needed to, join them in, get some additional information, maybe get some details about the products that are being applied into these opportunities. I can also turn opportunities, the opportunity listing, into a pivot table and have that on the ready for reporting and access within Acumatica. What that does for me on the pivot tables is it gives me direct access, direct links, so that somebody can actually work with those records as if they were exporting the data into Excel. But lastly, you do have that availability to export out into Excel. I can just simply click the Excel button here, and all of this data would pop out into Excel if I needed to work with the data that way. All right, so that's looking at some generic inquiries quite nicely. Let's look at also then accounts receivable as an example. Accounts receivable might have an invoice format or a credit memo format. We did see the invoice format from before. We ran that earlier, but notice that from the reporting tool, I could edit the reporting versions and make modifications to this report and publish it back into Acumatica. Quite easy for an end user to be trained on how to handle this style of report. There's also things such as aging reports that might group data together, do subtotals on this report. Let's go ahead and just run the report as of today. Let's go back in time. Okay. There we go. I'm going to jump uphill. Sorry about that. We're going to go jump uphill and we're going to look at a grouping of this report. So in this case, notice that I have customers, I have subtotals, I have invoice totals, and it's being aged in a 30, 60, 90-day format in this particular record. I could print this, I could run it out to PDF, I could Excel, I could even send it. Maybe I need to email this to one of the managers or one of the company owners or something of that nature. In these reports, notice that we do have the listing of the customers, and I could quickly navigate into a particular customer because that's how my grouping is. If I was looking for a particular customer that I needed to see being published in here onto this aging, I can easily click on it and drill into it. Let's then talk about a third layer of reporting. So we've talked about generic inquiries, we talked about searching, grouping, pivot tables, other things that we in default tabs that we can build within the GIs. We've also talked about standard reporting, but let's look at a particular financial report. Financial report for Acumatica is a different reporting tool because of its nature. Notice that I have the layout, in this case, a profit and loss statement, where I've got my P&L format all the way down through EBITDA and net income, but I've decided to define column headings that are rolling 12 periods of time. So it starts from the time period that the report runs backwards by 12 months, and looks at the life cycle or the trending of a particular record. So in this example, for the sake of history data, I've ran it from 9/21 and it's going back into 10/20. Notice that this report does have direct links into drill downs. So if I'm curious, what is this other income and what is it actually doing? I could see the drill down of that report with the accounts and the sub accounts. I could keep drilling down into the general ledger account detail and see that this is made up of several AR invoices. All of this total is coming from AR in this particular period. And if I wanted to look at one of these particular invoice numbers, I easily could and look at the actual reference numbers and see what is driving those values and what is factoring that in. All right, so that's these also are done within a company roll-up. We talked about it at the beginning that I have a series of companies. These companies are rolling together in a hierarchy with branch structures under each. In this example, I do have a product company and retail and wholesale, as well as I have a service company. This particular, if I'm looking at consolidated reporting, is all of my companies. But let's say I just want my products company, I'll get refactored right on the fly and get a quick ability to drill down. If I want to look and see just what retail is doing, I could look at my particular retail entity. There are other things out of the gate with Acumatica that we can get. We have balance sheet, cash flow statements, and other versions of the profit and loss as well, easily done within our Acumatica report writing tool. What this report writing tool gives us the capability to do is come into a particular report. So let's go look at our P&L rolling 12 that we looked at. And it has a particular row set, how the report is built from top to bottom, how the revenue section, subtotal, and other expense sections and subtotals are accommodated, as well as this, in this case, the rolling 12. This column set is a rolling 12. I could have other column sets that is a current period, a year to date, same period last year, etc. And I have unit sets defining all of my branches and my company hierarchies and my roll-ups. These can easily be copied. These can easily be updated and format changed as well within the Acumatica footprint, and you have unlimited financial reporting available at your particular fingerprint. Let's go ahead and finish off then with dashboards. So I'm going to start with the dashboard that is on my default homepage. I'm just going to click back here to my homepage. I'm going to take out the filter, the parameter that has been applied. What I'm looking at is a really intriguing dashboard that is very beneficial to many within the organization. I'm looking at sales orders and opportunity details here. So I have orders to ship, I have late orders, I have open opportunities. I also am seeing accounts receivable in AR, and I have a support module active looking at support cases and inquiries on product support and other things that I might be looking at. I have a listing of my top customer contacts, products that are sold in a drill down. And if notice, if I highlight over it, I'm getting details here. And every one of these widgets and every one of